Let's finally have a quick chat about the Heritage Party. I thought we'd have a quick look through your manifesto, which
fantastic.
I thought would be a good idea, because this is something I think is not getting enough air. And I think there are a lot of people listening who would probably agree with pretty much everything you have in here. So if we can, as you put it here, Manifesto for Social Conservatism. You seek to promote and preserve life, liberty, prosperity, and national sovereignty.
Yeah.
They seem like good things.
They are. I don't see why anyone wouldn't agree with them. But, actually, you look at the mainstream media and the political parties we got in Westminster, and they would sort of, from a lot of the time,
they'd recoil
oppose
like a
those
vampire
things.
in a cross, wouldn't they?
They would,
they,
liberty, we don't like that.
Our culture and heritage.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, let's go to the first one. So, protecting our culture and heritage. We're a great country with much to be proud of, a system of common law, development, democracy and liberty, the abolition of slavery, and the numerous world-beating innovations in science and technology. But isn't this something that we should be ashamed of?
I think we should be very proud of our country. I just, it irks me so much when you get so many people saying, all the time, just trying to bring out the bad bits of our history. Yeah, there are some bad bits, but there are some fantastic bits as well. We've done some great things as a nation. We've had some wonderful people, innovators, artists, sports people. We've done, the military has done so much to abolish slavery in the 19th century. The Royal Navy went round the world and didn't just abolish it in the British Empire, but stopped the French and the Spanish and the Arabs and the Turks from carrying out slavery as well.
I'll ask about Zanzibar sometime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
there are cases where apparently British sailors had to be sent away because they heard there was slaving going on and they got angry about it. But it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, our culture and heritage seem to be pretty good, actually. And the thing is, even if they're not good, do we have to justify them to anyone? No. Is it not enough that they're just ours?
Absolutely.
Like them.
Every country's got good and bad things in their history. Exactly. Every civilization in the world. But, let's stop people bashing us over the head, like Sadiq Khan, for example, with his Commission for Equality in the Public Spaces and all this nonsense. Let's be proud of our history, celebrate our history, the good things we've done. We've got a great heritage, a great culture. And I love it. Like we were saying at the beginning, before all this sort of destruction has happened, especially over the last 20 years, you can see I really, really liked the 90s when I was a young man. It was a really positive time. It was a positive spirit all around the world. Communism had fallen, 9/11 hadn't yet happened. There was like hope everywhere. Everyone just saw each other as a person, but if you were here in this country, there was so many good things going on. And was so positive, and we were looking forward to a great future based in a great heritage.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like there are people who will be like, the sort of 90s was doomed to end at some point. So okay, fair enough. But there was never something that was against the continuum of the country, right? It was always like, we're going to be Britain going on into the future. This is fine.
Yeah,
it's based in a kind of old traditionalism, really, and that was fine. I would like to have a kind of traditional, optimistic view.
I think whatever people are doing now, and there is so much that's attacking the foundations of our nation and our culture, we can restore it if we all just get together and say, we're not going to have that anymore. We're not going to have you breaking this down and spreading cultural Marxism and all this kind of stuff. We're going to restore and rebuild our nation and restore the heritage which we've got from our forefathers.
I think it begins with the commitment. This is ours, and we're not going to give it up. It was not for negotiation.
Yeah,
that's the thing. We've negotiated way too much, because one of the points that they're like, justify yourself. No, I don't have to justify myself. This is just mine, and I like it, and I don't have to say that it's good or bad either way. And I wouldn't go to some Arab and be like, right, justify your culture. I don't expect him to go, it's mine. I like it. I don't care. And I don't think I have a right to take it away from him, to be honest. So I'm not going to justify it. I'm just attached to it, and that's how that goes. Let's go down to the next one, John. So liberty and free speech. Well, they sound like radical proposals in this day and age, don't they?
They do, especially.
Can you even imagine?
After the last 2 years, my goodness. Yeah, wow. They've been trying to take away our liberty and our free speech, but also our freedom to protest.
I mean, we
our
literally
freedom to
can't
assemble.
put segment 3 on YouTube because
No,
of
gosh.
free speech.
That's astounding, isn't it? We're
Yeah,
just having a conversation about scientific principles,
can't put it
scientific methodology, and they're not allowed to put that up on some platforms, isn't it? Really, we've got a lot to do to restore this. But
So what would the Heritage Party do? Well, let's say there's a massive sort of 380 majority for the Heritage Party, hopefully next election. What would the Heritage Party do?
we would introduce a Freedom Act or Freedom Bill into Parliament, which hopefully would become a Freedom Act 2024. That would be great, wouldn't it?
What would that do? Exactly?
And what we would do is it would repeal all the legislation which has been put in place over the last 10, 20 years to take away our freedom.
Right.
So the Communications Act, Section 127, the Equality Act, the Public Service Equality Directive or whatever it's called, that makes you have to be sort of promote good relations with anyone with any protected characteristic, and this means that public bodies and anything in the public sector like universities and so on, they can't allow anything that anyone with a protected characteristic might say, oh, I feel that they're being hostile to me, because that goes against the Equality Act. The public sector equality directive, I think. Well, it's not directive, it's something else.
I can't remember the name of it, but I know the thing you're talking about. Okay,
obligation,
obviously get rid of all that.
Get rid of all those laws. The ones coming in as well, the Public Order Act, which is going to take, require social media platforms to get rid of speech that is legal but harmful. I mean, apparently they've said they're going to take that out now, but I mean, the fact that they were...
The fact they're even contemplating.
Yeah.
We're going to criminalise legal speech. Anyway, let's move on because it's depressing me. So, traditional family values. Again, what a radical perspective you've got.
Radical, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Let's support families to be wholesome so that mothers and fathers stay together and bring up their own children and pass on their traditional values from generation to generation.
That's mad. As a married father.
It's mad that people think that this is mad, isn't it? It's mad that people are against this.
You know what, though? Have you noticed the number of childless people in politics these days? Like, if you think back to when we were young men, it would be unthinkable that for example, Theresa May, be prime minister without any children. Why would you ever want a prime minister who didn't have children? And look at on the continent as well. In Europe, there are loads of childless.
It was Merkel, Macron, lots of people. Weren't there?
Europe is dominated by childless singletons, and it's just like, why are you in charge? What good is that? But again, in previous generations, it's been unthinkable. It's the norm now, and so it's just like, okay, well. It's crazy.
It's unusual, isn't it? I mean, it's like, I don't know what it's. I don't think this is a plan or so on, but it's just something that's happened, isn't it? Which is very strange.
But it's just weird how people aren't selecting for an eye to the future.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre to me.
But this is just the breakdown of society again, because the traditional family has been under attack since the 60s. If you want to have an alternative lifestyle, fine. I'm not going to say, you can't do that. But it's now being presented in schools, this phrase that, families come in all different shapes and sizes. Therefore, we can't say that one family type is superior to another when clearly it is.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up with a mother and father. I grew up with a single mother. She did the very, very best that she could for me. Absolutely. She's wonderful. But I never had a father there, so I never had a father figure. So I had to figure out a lot about how to be a man on my own. It would have been a lot easier if I'd have had a father figure. That's no disparagement to my mother at all.
No.
But it's just the way it is.
The fact that you turned out, as a good person... is a testament to her, but you are right. Your particular example, probably more of an outlier than the norm, right? That's the problem. There are lots of young men and young women as well, and we have a habit of saying, well, this is a thing that affects young men. It's like, well, yeah, but I think it does also affect young women. Look at the number using OnlyFans at the moment, where it's like you're just handicapping them from the word go. It's much better to have both parents around.
Yeah.
So I noticed I think before go back to that, John, just say the controversial final line there.
Marriage is that of a covenant and union between one man and one woman.
There are going to be a lot of people upset by that.
Well, there are. But this is something I'm taking a stand on because I do not agree with the redefinition of marriage in 2013 by David Cameron. I don't think it should have been redefined. Marriage is one man and one woman. Because marriage is essentially, the primary purpose of marriage is for reproducing and having your own children. So, a couple with
Passing
a man
on a
and
legacy
a
to
woman
your
and a woman.
successors.
You have like that, and then you have polyamorous marriages coming in some places.
Where's the end of it?
Legalized in Colombia and other countries.
The,
then will you have polygamy after that?
It might be worth looking into just how many gays actually do get married. It's not very many.
Not too many.
It's a very small, and there are studies that suggest that in fact there's no such thing as gay monogamy either. Which, I mean, I'm not making a judgment. I say live your life as you want, but at the end of the day, you kind of have a point there. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. National sovereignty. Again, these are just extreme positions, David. Like, this is far right, isn't it?
Well, I get called far right.
I haven't got a far right person on my far right podcast, have I?
Well, if you talk to like David Lammy, you might say I'm far
yeah,
right.
So the United Kingdom should be governed only by our own citizens, and all legislation be passed by Parliament should be formulated with the primary respect for the national interest and the liberty and prosperity of the British people. This is insane. How could this become the dominant paradigm of the United Kingdom?
I think it should become the dominant paradigm again. Do you think life would be much better, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Yes, it'd be infinitely better.
If we didn't make decisions for the benefit of bureaucrats in the EU or the World Health Organization or World Economic Forum or whatever.
Or Joe Biden. Yeah, like it's like, I'm laughing because it's just so obvious, but it's also so far away from where we are.
Right.
It's the opposite of what the Conservatives and Labour Party are doing.
This is the shocking thing, isn't it? The Conservatives are not conserving our national sovereignty or anything. But it's like they got a spell over so many millions of people who think they're conservative. I've got to vote conservative because they're conservative. But they're not. Yeah. They've got the name. They should be stripped of their name, I think.
Yeah, it's a skin suit that they're wearing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's go down to the next one then. Self-sufficiency in energy. Right, so you're suggesting we shouldn't be dependent on Russian dictators for our energy needs.
Oh, well,
that's crazy.
In the short term, we do actually need to go back and buy Russian oil and gas for this winter and the next winter, and we need to stop this crazy war in Ukraine. We shouldn't be sending money over there to prolong it when it doesn't need to happen in the first place. That's been my position. But in the long term, we've got so much energy in our country. We've got oil, coal, gas. We've got some nuclear power stations. We could easily build some small modular nuclear power stations to make up the shortfall. We've got an abundance of energy.
How do you feel about nuclear power generally? Because I'm a massive advocate for it.
I think it's great. It's
why don't we use that?
Modern nuclear power stations are very, very safe. You can have smaller ones. You don't need these huge ones, which the 4 gigawatt ones. You can have sort of 500 megawatt ones. Around the country, which is much smaller, much cheaper to build, and much easier to maintain, safer, and so on. There's ones going. Rolls Royce have had one going since the 50s. It's been working fine for 70 years or so. So there's no reason why we can't. Oh, I've spelled self-sufficiency wrong, have I? No, I haven't. Let's go. Self-sufficient. Yeah, sorry. No, so self-sufficiency in energy. There's no reason why we can't be self-sufficient in energy. We have so much of it. And it's absolutely insane that we've dismantled our coal power stations and we're dismantling our gas power stations and putting up wind turbines.
Well? They're decommissioning one of the nuclear ones as well, aren't they?
I think Sizewell is up. It's near the end of its life, but it could keep going for another 10 years or so. It doesn't have to be decommissioned.
But just replace them, build. I just don't see why nuclear energy is by far the cleanest, safest, and most efficient form of energy. It's a pro-human form of energy development. That's the thing, and so the fear mongering around it is irrational. But anyway, let's move on. Let's go to the next one. Low immigration.
We should have low immigration. That's a good idea, isn't it?
That's a great idea.
We should control our borders.
Like everything you've got on here is pretty much my dream list, but also the total opposite of what is happening now.
Yeah. I get so many people saying, wow, I wish I'd seen this before. I've read your manifesto. I love it. It's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And it's just, the issue we have is getting this out so more people see it. Because we don't have a lot of money. I don't have a massive Tory donor.
No.
I probably wouldn't want a Tory donor because then I'd have to change half of the stuff,
Well, yeah.
Which is why I don't have one. But it's just simple common sense that everyone can agree with. It's not extreme at all. It's just very normal. And what everyone would have thought 30 or 40 years ago, well, it's what everyone thinks now.
Yeah.
But they're just told all the time and messaged by the media that this is far right. It's nonsense. I mean, controlling our borders.
I mean, they make the far right sound great. If this is what the far right is, sign me up.
It's not that we're far right. It's everybody else is far left. That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that is exactly right. That is exactly the problem. They're really far left. Is there more? Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Preserving the environment. Oh, I like the sound of that. I love the countryside.
It is beautiful. We have such a beautiful countryside, but it's been ruined.
Yep.
With solar panels and housing estates. Wind farms.
The ugliest things in the world.
Why? Solar panels and wind farms we don't need if we have a number of, few small power stations around, which are already there. We don't need to build all these horrible wind turbines everywhere, which, by the way, kill loads of birds.
Yeah.
They talk about being green, but you put these things up which slice up peregrine falcons and so on. So absolutely idiots. And also with the mass immigration, they're concreting over our countryside and our prime agricultural land and turning it into housing estates. So some people make a lot of money.
It is genuinely unbelievable. My parents live in Cornwall, and they've lived there for 25 years now, something like that, 25 years. And I remember, just every time, I'll go down there over Christmas, and I'll go and visit. And you see, every year, this spread of the concrete jungle across what was otherwise beautiful terrain.
Yeah.
And it's just, this is depressing.
It is. I think it's deliberate to try to demoralize us, demoralize our spirits to do this. This is part of the destruction of our nation.
No,
but it is being destroyed.
Yeah.
And we need to stop it. So that's why I've written this and set up the Heritage Party to stop the destruction of our nation and turn it back.
Just go to the next one, John. Self-sufficiency in skills. So we're not going to be stealing Indian doctors anymore.
We don't need to steal Indian doctors. We could train enough British nurses. It's crazy. There's a cap on places for doctors and nurses and midwives in this country.
Must be done intentionally.
Yeah. And also the nurses and midwives now is a degree-only profession, whereas before they trained on the job much quicker, and then they'd be straight in and they'd spend most of their lives actually helping patients. Now if you're a nurse, you learn all this management stuff, and half the time you're sitting in an office directing people. They're not actually doing proper nursing. Yeah, it's all crazy.
The Blairization of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Should we get on to the next one? Equality before the law, really. So we're not going to have laws that privilege some and not others.
Certainly laws have changed with the Equality Act and so on, and the whole edifice of hate speech and hate crime, so that if you have a protected characteristic and you complain, you're fast-tracked through the justice system. But if you don't have a protected characteristic, well, you can't expect much help from the police.
I mean, I could be arrested for something I could say to Sadiq Khan, but he's never going to be arrested for anything he might say ethnically about me.
No.
Right? Because of the colour of his skin.
Because that wouldn't be considered to be racist because you're white.
Yes.
And, so anyone can say anything about you.
And they do.
Well, I don't know about that. But
I'm fine with that, actually. But it's just kind of annoying that the law is only cutting one way on this, right? It shouldn't have a cut on this.
So I disagree with this sort of aggravating factors and mitigating factors on the basis of protected characteristics.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be there. Every crime should be taken seriously. Whatever it is, whoever the perpetrator is.
I've thought this for a long time. It's like, really, is it worse for me to murder my neighbour because he's black or because he's having an affair with my wife? Either way, I've still murdered him intentionally.
Yeah.
So what difference did it make?
So exactly. I'm not saying that you should punish people less.
Of course.
If someone is black, those punishments are probably right. But if someone murders you and you're white and it's not aggravated on the basis of race, it's still a murder. You get an equal sentence.
I still intended to murder you. It's just, who cares what the reason was, really? If it was a willful intent to murder that person, yes, well then it's the same crime.
Yeah, exactly.
This is like, it's because he was a racist. And it's like,
but that's still, it's still a crime. You treat all crime the same. And also, rich and poor That's another thing.
Wow, yeah.
The rich should get the same justice and sentencing as someone who's poor. And, it's actually deplorable that some people get off because of their connections.
Wow.
I
mean, that's a problem that's as old as time.
Yeah.
But it never used to be that we had like this racialized justice system, which I just can't stand. It's just wrong. Should we keep going? We're running towards the end, but let's keep going.
Okay.
Financial.
Should we have financial responsibility?
No, that's crazy.
Let's get into national debt and spend all the money that we don't have.
Positions, David, that I totally agree with. I would love financial responsibility.
We don't spend more money than we get in.
That would be great because we would have to cut so much that draws illegal and legal immigrants to this country. Like, it would fix so many problems.
Billions and billions of pounds we could cut. HS2, foreign aid, home migrant hotels, diversity officers.
Guys, can you even imagine
cut
if this
all of
was
that
implemented?
stuff?
I bet you can't stop imagining. Okay, let's carry on. I totally agree. Let's keep going. Free market economy. Wow, we're not going to be communists.
I don't think communism's that good, really, do you?
Really? No, I'm not a fan.
I'm not sure it's worked too well. Maybe it's worked some places, but I can't think of anywhere.
No one can think of anywhere, no. I would like it, where individuals are rewarded for their endeavours and there's an incentive to work efficiently and avoid poor decisions. Almost the way that Elon Musk is taking over Twitter at the moment.
Right.
Yeah, no, okay, carry on. Let's keep going.
You like that?
I like
Maybe you'll
this.
find something you don't like in a minute. Who knows?
No, I being a pro-life party, that's very interesting in British politics.
Yeah. Well, there isn't one.
No, there isn't.
But we need one.
Yes,
because there's so many people who are shocked and
how many
at the horror
take place here?
of abortion. 220,000 plus every year now. Children killed. That's what it is.
It's awful.
You've got to call it like it is. I mean, some people think, it's only a couple of thousand. Well, that would be bad enough, but it's over 200,000.
Yeah.
And it's 1 in 4 pregnancies end with a child being killed in its mother's womb.
So awful.
In this country. You need to realise this is going on.
Yeah.
And it's a horror that we have to stop.
I was always kind of, ambivalent about the abortion issue, but the thing is, the left has just pushed me to being like, no, I'm against it now. Like, because they were like, no, we want abortion up until the point of birth. I'm right, okay, 0 abortion then.
Yeah.
If you want it to the point where the child can just literally, the difference between him living and dying is the passage through a birth canal, then you're evil.
Yeah.
And that's got to stop.
Well, when they brought it in 1967, it's not legalized, by the way. It's still illegal, but it's just decriminalized. It's still illegal under the offences under the Person Act 1867. Abortion is illegal. But the Abortion Act, 18 something, I don't know exactly, but the Abortion Act 1967 makes it decriminalized under certain criteria. So if 2 doctors agree that there's a criteria that it's met, then an abortion can be carried out without criminal consequences. But it's still actually illegal.
It is horrible, though. Yeah.
But it doesn't stop it because they said, it's going to be rare. It's only for rare cases, but it's not rare. It's 200,000 plus a year now.
Well, I hate to say it, but we're out of time. So, David, I take it people can go to heritageparty.org to contact you. Have you got social media that people can follow you on?
I'm at David Curtin on Twitter, is my main one, and at Heritage Party UK on Twitter as well.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Heaters, you can go to lotusheaters.com to check out all the content we have on the site, such as this article from Bo, a red pill testimony. And if you'd like to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotusheaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.